There's a particular kind of pain that comes not from betrayal, but from the realization that the person who made you feel worthless was surviving off your strength the entire time. I didn't know that at 24. Back then, I believed in love the way children believe in fairy tales, wholeheartedly and without question. So when I met Tristan Calloway, I didn't hesitate. He was tall, effortlessly witty, with that messy hair and half-button shirt that said, "I don't try too hard, but I still get what I want." And he got me. In the beginning, it was everything romance novels promised. Candlelit dates, sudden flowers delivered to my desk, hours of conversation that stretched into the night, where he'd say things like, "You're so different from anyone I've ever met." He made me feel seen. And then he slowly started erasing me. The first red flag was dressed like a compliment. "You're always working," he said once, watching me write a pitch deck at 2 a.m. "If you were smarter, you'd figure out how to make money without burning yourself out." I laughed. He didn't. I told myself he was just concerned, that he wanted better for me. And when he showed up the next day with coffee and a croissant and that signature smirk, I let the comment slide. But the thing with red flags is, they never stay alone. Soon came the comparisons. You know Monica at my old firm? She had this polished look, really feminine. "I bet if you wore heels more often, you'd feel more confident." Or, "You're always so emotional. You should try thinking more logically like Vanessa. She's calm, level-headed, a real power woman." Funny how every woman he praised was someone I wasn't. And every insult he gave was wrapped in concern, never harsh enough to scream abuse, but sharp enough to cut. I stopped wearing red lipstick, stopped laughing as loud, stopped questioning his decisions, because somehow he'd made me believe I wasn't quite enough. Professionally, I was thriving. I climbed fast at my firm, built campaigns for global clients, became the go-to for high-pressure presentations. But none of that mattered when I got home. At home, Tristan reminded me that my job was boring, my voice too corporate, and my control issues made me hard to live with. Yet somehow I was the one paying the bills. Tristan never held a stable job. There was always a project, an app he was developing, a consulting deal that was just weeks from closing. But months passed, years, and the only consistent paycheck came from me. I covered everything: rent, groceries, date nights, gas, car insurance, even his medical bills when he needed dental surgery. Every time I raised concerns, he'd throw it back at me. "You think money is everything? Or worse, you're trying to emasculate me. That's what this is." And I'd cave, because I was tired, because I was in love, because it was easier to doubt myself than confront the truth. He began disappearing for meetings, business trips I wasn't allowed to join. Sometimes he wouldn't come home for 2 nights. I'd call. No answer. Then he'd text at 3 a.m. "Don't wait up. Big opportunity. You'll thank me later." When he came back, it was always with a story, and a cheap bottle of wine as peace offering. "You'll see," he'd whisper, kissing my forehead. "This sacrifice will pay off." So I stayed. But the truth always finds its way to the surface. It started innocently. I was preparing a presentation using the shared laptop, the one Tristan borrowed occasionally when his startup machine was down. I opened the browser to check something, and noticed a tab still open. PayPal account. Not mine. Not any of the accounts I recognized. The username was t.calloway23, a handle I remembered from his college days, when he used it for music forums and message boards. Curious, I clicked in. He'd left it logged in, and what I saw made my stomach flip. Monthly deposits. Thousands. Coming from an account labeled EM Moore Holdings. My name. My company's umbrella account. The same one that handled high-level disbursements for marketing contractors. Only I never authorized anything. And worse? There were emails between Tristan and a freelance contact in my department falsifying documentation, invoices, contracts, claiming he was a consultant for our firm. He was billing my company, through my team, under fake credentials, living off me through a system I helped build. I sat there paralyzed as the truth burned through my chest. The man who told me I wasn't enough had been feeding off my success the entire time. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark with the glow of the laptop lighting up my living room, watching the transactions repeat over and over like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. $1,800, $2,400, $3,100. Every month. Each payment tagged with project codes I personally created. He hadn't just lied. He'd infiltrated my work, my life, my blood, my reputation, and used it to feed himself. And worse? No one caught it. Because the system he snuck through was one I helped streamline. I had made it too easy to trust. The next morning I called in sick. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to breathe before I exploded. Tristan walked into the kitchen like nothing happened, phone in one hand, orange juice in the other. "Morning, babe," he said. "You okay? You look pale." I stared at him. For the first time in years, I saw him not as the man I loved, but as the parasite he truly was. I played dumb. Just a little off. Probably stress. He shrugged. "You do that to yourself."
No é palegi. No é fexchen.
Just more blame. That evening while he was out, I printed everything. PayPal records, fake invoices, email threads, company records. I made 2 copies, one for my personal lawyer and one for HR. I had to be smart. I couldn't let emotions burn the case. This wasn't just a breakup anymore. This was fraud. When I confronted him, I didn't yell. I waited until he sat down with his wine, legs up on my coffee table. "I know what you did," I said. He looked up slowly, a slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You built my company under a fake name, using a system I built. You've been stealing from me for over 2 years. He blinked once, then laughed. "I didn't steal. I deserved that money." My voice dropped. "You forged documents." His jaw clenched. "I helped you. Don't act like I didn't. You never would have made it this far without me backing you up emotionally." I stared. "You made me feel small." He stood up, voice rising. "I carried your self-esteem, Elena. Every time you wanted to quit, who talked you down? Who made you look presentable at those awful networking events? Who told you how to speak, how to dress, how to hate myself?" I snapped. "Yeah, that was you." The next day I went to HR. I showed them everything. I expected pushback, internal investigation delays, maybe even embarrassment on their end for letting it slide. But instead I found something worse. They already knew. My boss pulled me into a private office and shut the door. "Elena, we've been investigating these payments for months. We were close to freezing them, but we couldn't figure out the connection until now." I stood there breathless. "Why didn't you say anything?" She hesitated. "Because we didn't want to believe it could be tied to you. But now we know he used you. And we're filing charges." When I got home, Tristan was gone. He must have sensed the walls closing in. His things were missing. His emails wiped. He'd even factory reset my tablet and taken my backup hard drive. But I had copies. And a trail. And the truth. That night I sat in the nursery of my mind, the one I never built, the one he convinced me we weren't ready for. I thought about the years I spent choosing him over myself. The jobs I turned down because he was between projects. The apartments I skipped because he liked the cheaper one. The clothes I didn't buy, the trips I didn't take, the life I postponed. For him. All while he was draining me dry. But this time I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to burn down my life for a man who never planned to build one with me. I was going to expose him publicly, legally, and completely. And if he thought I was never good enough before, he hadn't seen what I could do with rage, a printer, and a reputation to reclaim. 2 weeks after Tristan disappeared, I got the first call from his friends. A man named Paul, someone I vaguely remembered from Tristan's countless get-rich-quick dinners, left a voicemail. "Hey Elena, heard you and T had a falling out. Just wondering if he left anything behind. Like a laptop. Or his ledger. You know, the one with the payment list." The payment list? It wasn't just me. Tristan had been playing multiple women, multiple companies, multiple stories. And the worst part? He used me as his launchpad. The legal process wasn't fast, but it was moving. HR handed everything over to corporate legal, and I worked with an outside investigator hired by the firm. As it turned out, I wasn't the only employee he'd siphoned money from, just the one with the longest paper trail. My lawyer was gathering enough evidence to press personal charges: fraud, misrepresentation, digital forgery. Meanwhile, I was putting my life back together. But even that wasn't simple. When you date someone like Tristan, their poison lingers. My credit score had taken a hit, not from missed payments, but from co-signed accounts he'd quietly added me to. He had opened a gym membership, a small bank account, even a subscription-based streaming investment platform, all using my name. None had gone to collections yet, but they were all hanging over me like a financial time bomb. I canceled every account, froze my credit, got a new phone number. And with every cancellation, I realized something. I hadn't lost a man. I had shed a parasite. But there was one thing left to face. Myself. I kept hearing his voice. You're too intense. You're not attractive enough to make it by charm alone. You overcompensate because you know you're just average. It was like a song stuck on repeat, words that had become scars. So I went to therapy. Not to fix what was broken, but to find what he tried to bury. I told my therapist. He always told me I wasn't good enough. She asked, "And what did you tell yourself?" I couldn't answer. Not yet. 3 months after he left, I was invited to speak at a leadership summit. It was a big deal, televised panels, high-profile guests. The kind of thing I used to turn down because Tristan said, "You're not polished enough for that kind of stage." But this time, I said yes. I bought a new black blazer. Wore the red lipstick he used to say made me look too loud. And when I stepped onto that stage, I didn't tremble. I spoke about resilience, about ethics in tech, about how women are often made to doubt their instincts, especially by the men closest to them. And when I looked out into the audience, I saw faces nodding, listening, believing me. That night I got a message. No name, just a burner email. "You're really milking this for attention, huh?" I knew it was him.
No apology. No remorse.
Just more spite that I had survived him. I stared at the screen and replied, "You lived off my name, my money, my mind. Now you'll watch me rise with nothing that belongs to you." Then I blocked him. The last time I saw Tristan was on a screen. A local news report had picked up on a multi-state investigation into tech fraud schemes. He was one of the names mentioned. No arrest yet, but they were closing in. His mugshot, when it came, was grainy and tired. Not charming. Not smooth. Just small. Like the man he always was. That night, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You are good enough. You always were." And for the first time I believed it. 6 months after Tristan vanished, I received a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A handwritten letter addressed to my office, written in that same arrogant cursive I'd once found charming. "Elena, maybe I made mistakes. Maybe you did too. But we both know you were never truly happy. I gave you purpose. I gave you a focus. Without me, you wouldn't be who you are today."
No apology.
Just revisionist history. I didn't finish it. I tore it in half and dropped it in the trash. Because while Tristan was hiding behind fake names and guilt games, I was rebuilding everything he tried to destroy. The summit video had gone viral. People called me bold, articulate, inspiring. Women in tech messaged me saying, "You said what I've been afraid to admit." And the board, the same board that once saw me as young but promising, now looked at me as someone with gravity. They offered me a promotion. Vice President of Strategy. Tristan used to scoff at that word. Strategy. He said it was corporate fluff. But I turned it into a weapon. A map. A way out. My first act as VP? Clean house. I went through every vendor, every consultant, every suspicious invoice. I rooted out old friends of his who'd been siphoning quietly. And when HR asked if I wanted to press further charges, I nodded. I want every dollar back. Every lie uncovered. Every shadow lit up. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. But justice takes time. And while I waited, I moved forward. I moved into a new place. A downtown loft with light-filled windows and no memories. I painted my bedroom gold. Hung up a print that read, "Never mistake quiet for weakness." I started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. But on my terms. I'd once built my entire sense of self around a man who drained me. Now, I was learning how to build a life that didn't need someone to be full. Then one morning I got the call. It was my lawyer. "Tristan's been arrested," she said calmly. "They found him in Miami under an alias. He's facing multiple counts of fraud and identity misrepresentation." I didn't say anything at first. Just exhaled. Not in celebration but in closure. The man who told me I'd never succeed without him was now behind bars. For stealing from me. They asked if I wanted to testify. "I'll do it," I said. "But not for me." "For who then?" my lawyer asked. I thought of every woman he had tricked. Every friend I'd pulled away from because he said they were toxic. Every late night I cried in a locked bathroom wondering if I was just too much. "For the woman I used to be," I said softly. "She deserves to hear the truth said out loud." The courtroom was cold. He looked thinner. Pale. But that same smirk was still there, like he thought he could spin this talk his way out. He didn't. The prosecutor laid it all out. Fake contracts, false employment, forged credentials. I took the stand. I looked him in the eye and said, "You lived off me. You stole my money, my time, my belief in myself. And yet I survived you. Thrived without you. Now, I'm free." He didn't flinch. But he heard me. And that was enough. The day the verdict came in, it rained. I watched the droplets run down the courthouse windows as the judge read out the sentence. Guilty on all counts. Tristan Calloway would serve 5 years in federal prison, with restitution owed to both my company and me personally. The courtroom was silent.
No cameras.
No crowd. Just a few people who had once been fooled by him, and one woman who had finally learned to stop apologizing for her strength. He looked at me one last time before they led him away. Still smug. Still clinging to the belief that he'd been the one wronged. But I didn't look away, because I wanted him to remember what power really looked like. A month later, I stood in front of an auditorium full of young professionals. The event was titled, "Reclaiming Yourself After Workplace Manipulation." I was the keynote speaker. I told them the story. Not the polished version. Not the corporate one. The real one. About the man who told me I talked too much, while forging my name behind closed doors. About the nights I paid for dinner while he insulted my salary. About the moments I stared into the mirror, wondering if I truly wasn't enough. And then I told them what came after. The evidence. The fire. The freedom. Afterward, a young woman approached me. Barely 23, with tired eyes and a stiff smile. She whispered, "I think I'm living your part 1. I took her hand. "Then start writing your part 2, I said. The money Tristan owed me came slowly, drips through court-mandated repayment. I didn't need it. By then I had earned triple that on my own. But I kept the checks. Framed them. A gallery of his debt, not to my bank account but to my worth. People often asked if I ever regretted those years. If I hated myself for not seeing the truth sooner. Sometimes I did. But then I remembered. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't weak. I was manipulated and I got out. And that in itself was a kind of triumph. One evening I sat alone on the balcony of my new home. Wine in one hand, tablet in the other. I opened a blank document. Typed the title, "How to Rebuild After the Person Who Loved You Tried to Ruin You." It wasn't a memoir. Not yet. But it was a start. Because he told me I wasn't good enough. But the truth? I was too good to stay his victim. Now, he gets to watch me rise. From the one place he can't touch me anymore. Behind bars.